Now, I did a review of this Jar Jar Binks figure, and I think it's actually like a really cool figure. It has a lot of articulation, and I was really happy with it. So one of the things I started thinking about with this figure was this Kowakian monkey lizard. And I started thinking, like, what if this Kowakian monkey lizard were almost like a full-size character? So it would really be about transforming the head and doing some paint work on the body, probably having to take out one of those fingers too. So let's see if we can make this transformation, shall we? Okay, so some of the first things that we want to do is we need to like sort of start modifying this figure a little bit. And one of the things that I have here is I have these little clippers, and this is where it's like a do or die moment, people. I mean, like, you got to have the stomach for this to really like just get in there and take your figures apart. I'm going to do my best to try to make this as presentable as possible. But so this is where it is. When you decide you're going to do this, two things can happen. You can come out of this like with a really cool figure, or you can come out of this with like just a destroyed figure. And you just don't know what's going to happen until you do it. So the first thing I'm going to do is, these ears have some play. I'm actually just going to pop those out. And I'm not worried about if they break or anything like that, because they're not going to go back in those holes. I've already kind of planned out what I'm going to do here. And they're not going to go back in those holes. So one of the things that I noticed about this face, it's got like almost a really good shape for that monkey lizard. The only thing I don't like is it has like the bill here. It needs to be more pointed. And these eyes have to go. So basically, I'm going to take these clippers and I'm just going to cut those eyes off. And I know people who are like, oh my gosh, these are my figures. Don't cut the eyes off. Oh my gosh. I'm going to get a Dremel and I'm going to sort of like flatten these two parts of the face out, maybe flatten some of this area up. Then I'm going to put a few drill holes in this, and then you're going to see what I'm going to do. But the first thing that I want to do is think about this ear for a little bit. So I'm going to cut the ear kind of like this. And this is like those clippers that you would get to do a Gundam build or something like that. And basically, if you know anything about the Kowakian monkey lizard ear, you can see that, like, I'm just kind of gonna shape this ear. Because you don't want this to break when it's in the head. So anyways, I'm gonna leave that about like that. And then we got the other ear, and we'll just do the same thing with all four of them. Okay, so I am gonna be using some power tools. This is a Dremel. I gotta drill some holes in the side of the head, and I'm probably gonna do some starter holes for those eyes, and then you see I'm gonna get like a grinding bit out in a minute. I recommend that you have adult supervision with you when using power tools. So be very careful, because any tool can hurt you. I keep it on the lowest setting for the most part, and I kind of like want to stabilize the head a little bit, and I start off by just touching it. Now what I got to do is I got to change this bit out for like a grinding wheel, and I use something like this. Okay, so the plan here is to take these ears and to stick them in these little holes that I drilled here. One on each side. And then you'll have your monkey lizard ears. And then I'm hoping to get these eyes to go into these sockets. So one of the things that I have to do is I have to do a little bit more trimming just so I can make sure that those pieces fit in there. And then it's gonna be super glue and wait. Okay, so I got those ears glued on and the eyes glued in on each of them, and I'm just gonna let the super glue set, and then we'll be able to do some epoxy sculpt and paint. So one of the things that we're gonna do is we're gonna end up molding the face. And what I like to use is I use epoxy sculpt. And this epoxy sculpt is actually pretty cool. It like works like clay and then hardens over time. And it gets pretty hard. So the way you use this epoxy sculpt is you have the two different batches and you mix equal parts. Now, I don't weigh them out or anything like that. I just kind of like eyeball it and try to get about the same amount from each container. It's an A and B. And then, so I'll put some of that back. So that's about the same. And then what you do is you just press them together like this until you get a really even color, and usually about 2 minutes of kneading. All right, so you wanna knead it until it's got a pretty even look to it, like the colors have blended like near perfectly, and it's pretty much ready to work with. So I know this doesn't look like much, so what I'm gonna start with is the monkey lizard has kind of like a point on the top of his head. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a little bit of this So as you can see, we got like a Kowakian monkey lizard sort of taking shape, right? What we want to do is just kind of like highlight the mouth on the end of the beak, both sides. Just kind of even it up with what's there. And then the other thing that I wanted to like do, because these monkey lizards have a little bit of hair that sticks off. So I'm just gonna stick this on the end, and I'm gonna take another little piece and I'm gonna stick that on the end also here. And then when I get to painting, those are gonna be like completely different colors. And then the other thing I like to do is I'm going to just add some pieces to the top. They don't have to be perfect. I just roll them a little bit and then stick them up there. Okay, so here we go. 2 Kowakian monkey lizard faces, and then got some hair around their neck. That's what that little hair piece was for. And then we just let these dry. It's gonna take a day or so, and then we'll get to some painting. So we'll set those apart. Okay, so now that these are dry, I'm looking at them and I almost see Wile E. Coyote in there. And you can see that all this is dry. So I think it looks pretty decent. The only thing I don't like is I don't like these ears. They just stick up. And I just wish that they could get them to curve down. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take a little bit of flame and I'm gonna heat up the rubber right there. And don't worry about burn marks because it'll go away. And then it's kind of like melting the plastic enough to where you could do like a little, put like a little bend in it. And once it dries, it's gonna dry in that curved position. So let's just do the side too. But now, you see I got a little bit of bend in those ears, and I'll probably trim a little bit more of that out, but I'll let that dry or cool down, and it should cool down into place. So to get this kind of like look, this brownish tan look, I used a combination of a kind of like a skin tone, a dark skin tone. I put a base coat of that on. Then what I did was I mixed orange and blue. Now it was a lot of orange to like a dab of blue to make like a light brown color. And then I went over it and did like a light brown. And then I made the brown a little bit darker and painted in the hair. Now you see, like, I just did some touch up, and I'm gonna have to go back and do that on this fur because I wanted to lighten up the brown that I had done. Then of course I dabbed the eyes in pure black because if you've seen the staring contest, you know that the eyes are black. I did that little beak, and then on the end of the cheeks, that hair is brown. So I did the darker brown for that hair, and I think they turned out okay. All right, so here are the two final products. I think they look pretty cool. You can see how like that flame really bent the ear. The paint really covered that up. I did some work on this one where I just put the front of one of the Death Trooper Commando gear on him. So he's got some like battle. I gave him one of the rifles, so he's kind of all decked out in battle gear. This one I kind of made like a, gave him like a little cross drawn, gave him one of like my extra Han Solo's vests. So he kind of is like a, maybe like a smuggler or something like that. And then of course I gave him their little headbands. That was one of the things. So here's the thing about these two, is I didn't just jump into doing that video. I had made a test, and the test was this one. Kind of came out. I sort of left him in his same gear, gave him this belt and a lightsaber. Did not really like the way these wings or these ears turned out. You can see how they're kind of like different. But those are my three monkey lizard, Kowakian monkey lizard customs. And anyways, thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Hope you liked the little video, kind of just like walking through my process. And as always, have a great day.